We are back again now to focus on the 14 chapters of the book, which give an outline of a number of things that need to change within the state. It is important to note that we'll be starting with the last chapter, which is chapter 14 of the book. The rationale behind that is mainly because when we listen to the message of the book, it focuses on constitutional values. So when we read from the last chapter, we'll be able to identify the challenges that we have encountered, and therefore when we arrive at the last chapter, we should, at the first chapter, we should be able now to infuse all the relevant values as identified in the introduction as well as in the first chapter into all these particular chapters. It is imperative to note that all these chapters are based on a number of articles that I had published in newspapers. Of critical importance is that when we start to deal with these particular chapters, the ideal aspect is to foster state efficiency, good governance, as well as the achievement of human rights. Importantly, I think it is very imperative that I take us back to the key sections of the Constitution, which is Section 1 of the Constitution, which sets out the constitutional values, Section 237 of the Constitution, which provides that all constitutional obligations be performed diligently and without delay. Given the basic values and principles that have been identified in the Constitution on how to run a state, be it government department, be it an SOE, which is a state-owned enterprise, be it a public body, or be it a constitutional entity, it is imperative that we therefore look into Section 195 of the Constitution, which sets out those particular basic values and principles of the public administration. Now we'll zoom into the last chapter of the book, which is chapter 14. It is titled The Best Gift for the People. The question is, what is the best gift for the people? The best gift for the people is to ensure that their livelihood improves, that they are able to unleash their potential, free their potential, given allowing circumstances and environment. Accordingly, the key question is, how do we get to that? What are the challenges, if any, that we have identified? It is important to remember that there have been challenges in our country. We look specifically into our state-owned enterprises. The SOEs, you look at ESCOM, you look at the South African Airways, you look at the South African Broadcasting Authority. We learned about the challenges within these particular entities. We learned on how they had to be bailed out. The challenge, therefore, is how do we make sure that these particular entities are able to perform maximally so as to be able to allow space for the citizens to be able to enjoy their rights, for the citizens to be able to unleash their potential, including other organs of state, government departments, other public entities, as well as imperatively constitutional bodies. Have they done what they ought to have done to ensure that the people are able to enjoy their life fully so? It is therefore imperative that when we look into this particular question, we remind ourselves, as I've already indicated, about the challenges that we have had. Being in ESCOM, being at the SAA, being at the SABC, even in Chapter 9 institutions themselves, as well as in government. The challenge can be countered by ensuring that we appoint fit and proper persons in the context that they are well qualified, they've got the skills including leadership qualities and acumen, and their ability to make decisions, and critically, they have that element of integrity. Therefore, the answer is that when we appoint the people in the forefront, we have to ensure that people's lives improve. It is imperative that in appointing them, whatever interviews that are performed or conducted, such interviews be conducted in the open. In other words, let's follow the approach that we have always had of televising them, but we need to expand more on that. We need to look into our municipal managers, look into our directors general, look into our CEOs, and have those people's interviews televised so that the citizens can be able to observe, listen, and decide for themselves as to whether a recommended person is really a fit and proper person. The other option is really to say that in provincial areas, what needs to happen is that when provincial legislature interview people, or even provincial departments, let those be held at the provincial legislatures, and let those be open to the public. Anyone can walk in and get to listen by sitting at the gallery. Similarly, at the municipal level, let's have open interviews for the municipal managers, so as to ensure that the people are able to access by being able to get into the municipal councils and listen to the interviews. Those are the critical aspects that we can really follow in order to ensure that we have fit and proper persons. It is important that I note that in writing this particular article, I looked into other people's ideas. I had an engagement with former President Kgalema Motlanthe, and I listened to what the founding chairperson of the Public Service Commission, Professor Sangweni, said about the importance of the Public Service Commission itself. They want, and they always wanted, the Public Service Commission to play the critical role for which it was established. Having listened to them, especially when it comes to the appointment, our appointments at Directors General level, I therefore went and looked into the Public Service Act just to look into the analysis thereof, to be able to identify the applicable sections and so forth that relate to the appointment of Directors General. We got to Section 12 of this particular Public Service Act. I analyzed it and came up with a conclusion. And that particular conclusion is contained in the book. So I'm just giving some hints about some of the things that we have to look into to ensure that we have fit and proper persons, which would be a gift, a best gift to the people, because those will be the people who will be able to carry out the constitutional imperatives. I must also allude to the fact that in writing this particular book, I looked into the reports of various entities, and particularly the reports of the Public Protector, where in the Public Protector looked into the irregularities related to appointments in the public service, irregularities related to appointments in SOEs. I also look into the Constitutional Court judgment of Kumalo, which sets out as well these aspects of irregular appointments. I therefore urge people that already have a copy of the book to read this particular chapter carefully. Those who do not have a copy as yet, please obtain a copy by visiting the website of CIAC, which stands for Constitutional Implementation and Governance Consulting. Or you can send an email to info@ciac.co.za. CIAC is CIAGC. Thank you very much for listening. We will now be moving into chapter 13.